So it's time to put on a new sensor because this one has run out. It lasts 14 days. Some last 10. I haven't come across them myself, but a few people have mentioned it. As you can see, it says no active sensor, and the only option is to start a new sensor. So if I try to scan my sensor at the moment, it gives me a little alarm and says start a new sensor to check glucose. So let's put a new one on. Okay, so my sensor's run out and now it's time to remove it from my arm. So it doesn't hurt at all. It feels like you're ripping off a plaster that's got a lot of sticky on there. So, which is basically what it is, but there's a pin in the middle. But you don't feel that coming out. I say pin, it's not metal. It's just a little plastic cannula, which you'll see in a second. So I'm just going to grab it and try and get my fingers under there and pull it away. So it's just like sticky there now. And here's the thing. Ah, it's not going to focus. Oh yes, it will. Okay, so it's a bit gross because it's got hairs on it, but what can I say? And it looks a bit bent as well, because that's what happens when you move it around or sleep on it. It moves around, but you just don't feel it. And there you go. So that needs to go into the sharp space disposal box, and it needs to be replaced. So let's do that next. Okay, so I've got my new FreeStyle Libre sensor. Excuse the 3D printer, this is just the best presentation area to do things with anyway. So here we go. Open up the box. Have a good read of the leaflet, highly recommended every single time. Okay, so in the box is pre-injection swabs, 2 of them. You just clean up the area, give it a little wipe before you attach this to your arm. So these are the 2 halves. So the sensor's in one, the adhesive is in the other. So what you have to do is open both of these, combine them together. You do that by lining up the black lines somewhere. Yeah, there it is. So you have to line up the black lines once these are open, push them together, and that puts the adhesive strip onto the sensor and gets the needle ready. The needle is retracted by this as well, so it doesn't keep the needle in your arm, which is amazing, otherwise it would be terrible. So once you put these together, you pull this away and you dispose of that, and this is the, I think they call it the applicator, and that will house everything inside there, inside this blue ring here. So once these are together, just make sure not to drop this, or not to accidentally push the blue ring, where it might trigger before you've lined it up with your body. Also, they do say it's important to make sure that the numbers are correct on these, so that they're paired. So we can see here the code is H90, and here is the same H90. Okay, let's open them up and put them together. I tend to open the white one first, because it's got a flat surface. And we can just see the sensors there. Those 3 black dots are the contact points for the chip inside here. So that is the actual bit that does the sensing. This unscrews. It's just plastic. You can put that in normal recyclable stuff. Don't quote me on that, check with your council. And here we go. So we've got the black line there and the black line here. We line them up. So I like to put this in really delicately. It goes in really nicely, but I'm just really careful with it until those areas line up there. And then we push so that this surface here is flush with the white. Like that. Obviously making sure that those black lines are in line at all times. And then you just pull them apart. So now that's gone from in there, and that is the part of the sensor that'll be on your arm. Okay, so there's a scary looking needle there, but actually the camera makes it look really big. It's not that big in real life, and it goes away instantly in one motion. So once this is pushed up to the skin, you push it in, this blue ring depresses into here, which pushes the needle in and pulls it back out at the same time. So the needle comes out and the cannula, the sensor, stays inside. which is the part that you saw earlier on that looked a little bit kinked. Alright, let's put it in. On. Okay, so I've got my sensor ready, and I'm going to be putting that on a different side arm, because it's better to alternate from side to side, give the other side a chance to heal. And before I do that, I'm going to give my arm a wipe. So this has got like alcohol in there or some kind of disinfectant, I don't know. It smells nice though, a bit like vodka. I don't know if I'm allowed to say vodka. Anyway, just rip it open. Like really small. They're not folded up, so you have to unfold them into some massive towel. They're just little things like that. So let's just give it the whole area a wipe. I haven't really decided exactly where I'm going to put it yet, because I'm a long-term user of this. I've been on the FreeStyle Libre for a year and a half, I think, maybe nearly 2 years. That's great, it's amazing. So there's going to be lots of little dots where my previous sensors have been. Let's have a good look. Okay, I'm just going to refer to my real mirror. Actually, it's not too bad, but you can see where they were. Let's have a look. There'll be one there, I think there. Yeah, so anywhere around there really, but I'm going to put it, I'm going to be putting it there, right in between. So I'm just sort of looking and sort of deciding which is furthest away from the cluster. So that is going to be there. I think, because there's one there, and there. So somewhere in the middle there. Okay. So the way that I do it is sort of on the side like that, and then I can just sort of look. Yeah, that's about the middle of the circle, isn't it? Maybe just about there. And then I just check to make sure it's not going to catch with any t-shirts. It might, but I think it's in a tidy position. Alright, here we go. So you ready? I'm going to push it in now and show my hand. So it does take quite a good push, but I just press down slowly and add pressure until it triggers. Because I'm on film, innit? There you go. So big springy sound, huge loud knock, didn't feel a thing, literally. I wonder if I had like a reaction on the camera. I'll have to look at that later when I'm reviewing it. So then it's still sort of attached. If you sort of let go of it, it sort of hangs there. So just gently pull away to make sure you don't rip the sensor off, and it just drops away like that. And there you go. Right, that's got to go in sharp safe disposal, because there is a needle in there. That metal needle you saw has now been retracted into this. It hasn't left it in the sensor. I'm just going to put that down carefully, and let's have a look. There you go. You don't have to, but I like to give it a little push and just sort of put my fingers around the edge there. Because if you can see, there is the adhesive does overlap the edge so the sensor's here, and the adhesive strip comes to about here, say the skin's here. So if you put your finger around the outer edge, you're sort of just helping it sort of seal in a bit. Make it more waterproof, because you can wear them in the shower, as long as you don't catch them when you dry in. And give it a little wiggle like that. This doesn't hurt at all. It just feels like there's a piece of plastic sellotaped to my arm. Sometimes when I lay down, I can sort of feel it. It doesn't hurt, but I'm aware that that cannula is inside me by a very small amount, just under the skin. I don't know what the length is. And there you go. Yeah, brilliant. So now we've got to activate it. Left it in the kitchen. So we turn it on, and it's going to give us the same message as earlier. Start new sensor. Can we see that? There you go. So we're going to press start new sensor. Scan it. Okay. Big bleep. What's it saying? It's going to be ready in 60 minutes. So that'll count down whilst it's giving it the signal now to say it's ready to start getting used. So in 60 minutes we'll get our first reading from the new sensor. And it's as simple as that. It's great. Okay, so while we're waiting for the sensor to come online, it's been 5 minutes, Oh, 6 just as I pressed it. We can do a manual test. So on the front we've got a little slot for normal test strips. So with the FreeStyle Libre we can test for up to the minute blood glucose and up to the minute ketones. So this is an important one because not all of them can do this. You can actually just put a drop of blood on there and it'll tell you what your ketone levels are. So I'm going to do both on camera. Okay, well, let's start off with a normal blood glucose, which are these blue strips. So they're handy as well because they're individually sealed. So even though it looks like a big box, these can actually be pulled out and then put into like a wallet perhaps. It's quite thin. There's 50 there, or nearly 50, just short, maybe about 40. And the way you open them, it actually shows you which way to tear them. So you know that the connectors at this end and this end here is where you put the blood, so you don't accidentally touch where you're not meant to. So just tear that like that, and pop that in the sensor, or the meter, I should say. So I'm currently at 10.3, so let's pop that out, and it turns off. By the way, before I forget to say, this charges up. It's got a rechargeable battery, so there's no battery bay or anything. You just put a normal mobile phone charger, and it'll charge up, and it lasts for nearly a week. Alright, let's do a ketone test, which is essentially the same thing, but it has a different screen on there. So let's open it up this way. Pop around the meter. Oops, I pulled it over accident. So, I don't know if you can tell, but oh, is it going to focus? There you go. The area where it sucks up the blood is a lot larger, and it says ketone test. So you do have to provide to it a much larger sample. I say much larger, I'm exaggerating. I'm just going to do a little bit more than usual. Let's say about that much. Takes a bit longer as well. And 0, which is all good. In case you do this at home, there's perhaps 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. Don't let that alarm you. It's quite normal to produce ketones at a low level. Don't take my word for it though. Always check with your doctor. And there you go. That's basically it. Let's see how long's left. 39 minutes to go. I wonder if the ketone is logged, so it shows what time I've done the ketones. Let's go through how it works. So there is only one button, and it's a touchscreen. So it's not so much a power button, but more like, well, call that the power button if you like. So it doesn't usually say this, it's just saying this now because I'm still waiting for my sensor to activate. But when you turn it on, usually this is the screen you get. So it shows you the battery, it shows you the time and how long until the sensor's ready. Usually there it'll say a countdown from 14 days to remind you every time how many days you've got left before you need to replace the sensor. It's got alarms set, so that's a button. I can press that and it goes into the alarms. check glucose, you press that and it says touch it to the sensor. You touch it to the sensor and it gives you an up-to-date reading. You've got the settings and review history. So let's have a look at the settings. So you can adjust the sounds, how loud it is, notification tones, notification vibrates, it vibrates as well. And touch tone, you can hear it's bleeping when I'm pressing buttons, so it's that. Target range, you can tell it what your target range is. You can set this yourself or ask your doctor to do it, or your diabetic nurse. This I've set myself because I understand a lot about diabetes, so this is the range I'm comfortable with. What this actually reflects on in the device is when you scan, you see a chart of what your sugar levels have been, and on that chart will be a blue area which defines this range that you set here. So you can adjust that blue bar, which is a visual representation of these numbers, so you can see at a glance whether you're inside or outside of your ranges. You can do the control solution test, which pressing that would obviously start that process. You can change the time and date, although every time you connect it to your PC it sets it for you. System status, system info inside there. You can test the reader and look at the event log. So if you've had any difficulties with the device and you have to phone FreeStyle or Abbott, they'll tell you to go into the event log and system info and read out to them what's inside there. Calculate the settings. When you are finger prick testing, as opposed to using the scanner, you have the option to calculate a recommended insulin dosage, but this should be set up by your doctor. And professional options is locked. They have a code to get into that, which allows them to make further adjustments to the insulin calculator. So I'm using the button here now as a back button rather than a power button. So we've explored all of that now. Let's go into review history. It's a similar looking menu but obviously different. Logbook, daily graph, average glucose, daily patterns, time within the target that we looked at just now. You can look at all of the low glucose events and the sensor usage. So let's start at the top. Logbook. You can see that just now ketones 0. This one here, it goes back in time, so the topmost is the most recent. And as you go down, you see the dates and times go further down. So you can see that the blood drop there represents the FreeStyle Optium, I think it's pronounced. Optium. That's the blood glucose test that we did just a moment ago. But this here, with an arrow on it, is from the sensor. And when we do a scan, we can tell it different things like it's an event that you're about to start exercise, it's an event where you've just eaten. So in here, it's telling me I've got high glucose, just by clicking on that entry. So let's scroll down. So this is the next 3. It goes up in blocks of 3 rather than 1 at a time. And you can see here I've been struggling with a high sugar level, because I ate a lot last night. And this one has, I should probably explain what the arrow is. So the arrow is the direction that your glucose is going. So if it's pointing to the right, it means it's stable. It's currently staying at 13.2, or as you can see around 13.6, and it's come down slightly from 14.2 earlier on at about 1:30. So because it's such a small change, the arrow is pointing that way to represent a slight change. That arrow is more relevant when you're looking at the graph when you do a flash glucose scan from the sensor. And you can see here that because this entry, the 14.1, has a pencil next to it, it means it's got some more information in there. So we can click into there and see that I told the device that I took 50 units of insulin at 11:40. So I've pressed scan on the previous sensor, scanned it at 11:40, I've looked at my 14.1 sugar level and I've gone, right, I'm going to take 50 units of rapid insulin. So let's have a look. At 10:04 I did a scan and I was 7.4 and my sugar level was going down. So we could see that just 13 minutes before it I was 8.2 and then 7.4. So the device is now telling us that the sugar level is going down. So there's a pencil next to it, and on that occasion I told it that I was eating something, probably something, I can't remember what it was. Okay, so that's the logbook. Now let's have a look at the daily graph. Sounds like a newspaper, that, doesn't it? You can see here all through the nights I've struggled with my sugar level increasing. So this blue bar that's going across here represents the target range that we set up in the settings. So I think it was 4.4 to 7 point something, and you can see that that sort of marries up there and there. So this is today, so 12 AM across to 12 AM for tomorrow, that's why it's not complete yet. And sugar level's gone up and up and up, and you can see there's been a dip there, probably because of that insulin I took after food. But probably didn't take enough insulin, as it's kept going up. I've taken another injection, and it's probably only now starting to kick in. It's starting to come down a bit now. So let's have a look at yesterday. So this is Wednesday, 30th January, and you can see what's been happening. So I started at around 8 or 9. It's gone up to about 14, 15. I've taken the injections and they've come down into range only just. I've eaten and it's gone up again as I've eaten, but didn't take an injection at that point, and that's probably why it starts to go up, because as we get to 12 AM here, we go to the next day, you see it's gone up and up, and the injections have come in late then. So let's have a look at another day. Let's look for a nicer looking day. Bit spiky there, but this is all useful information. This shows me where I need to correct for. In fact, you can see there that at just around 7 AM, perhaps 7 to 8 AM, that red line indicates a slight hypo, or it certainly went below 4.4 at least. That's quite a nice stable day, sort of. And there. So I think there was a sensor change. Let's have a think. No, I don't know what that gap is. Oh, that's a nice one. Again, that gap, I'm not sure what that signifies. Maybe my sugar level was changing too rapidly for the sensor to pick up on. So there, that is the daily graph. Let's have a look at average glucose. So my average glucose overall is 8.9. And then it shows you times of the day. So at or around 12 AM, at or around 6 PM, 12, 6, and back to 12. So the day is cut up into 4 sections. So, you know, around that sort of times 9.2. So it shows that, you know, in the evening sort of times, I'm pretty good, 7.5 on average. But then in the early hours of the morning and the mornings, it's obviously on a quite high level. But that's based on the last 7 days. So let's have a look at last 14 days. So you see it changes because it's not just using the last 7 days data, it's using the last 2 weeks. So that changes things. We can push that to 30 days, so last month. So it's looking like it's getting worse as we go back here. So if anything, that means that I'm doing better more recently, I guess. Let's push it again. I think it's 90 days. There you go. So that's using a lot of data to make that calculation. So that's fairly accurate. last 3 months, average of 10.4. Incidentally, when we connect this to the computer, the software will actually give me an estimated HbA1c, and the last few times I've checked, it's been fairly accurate. So that's just my opinion. Let's get out of there, see what's next. Daily patterns. Now this is fascinating. So it's taken a while because it's got to calculate all that data and render this graph for us. So this is, I interpret this as, I could be wrong, but I think this black line is the average over the last 7 days. And then the grey area is the variation pattern. So it can be this high at 12, it can be this low at 12, or over here it can be that high at 12 AM in the morning, or that low. There's a variance there within the last 7 days. And this changes the more data that we get. In fact, it smooths out because there's so much variance in my sugar levels. So let's take that to 30, is it? Yeah. So we can see my tightest control is around 6 PM, and it's widest around here. So that's useful information. Time in target, above target, in target, and below target. So 4% hypoglycemic events. You can see the target ranges there as well, 4.4 to 7.8. So I'm more than half of the time above 7.8, which isn't ideal. And we can expand that to 2 weeks. 30 and 90. Let's have a look at low glucose events. I think it came at 1 just now, didn't it? 2 events in the last 7 days. And it shows, of course, what time that tends to happen, which is again the same sort of time as when I'm having good sugar levels. See, at 30 days, still only 2 in the last 30 days, and 90 days is 6. So that's not too bad. And finally, the sensor usage. So I don't know what this is going to say at the moment because the one I'm wearing is still booting up. So in the last 7 days, average of 22 scans per day, and I've only lost 3% of that data. So I interpret that to be, I could be wrong, but I think what that means is the sensor can only hold 8 hours worth of data. So to capture 100% of it, you have to do a scan within 8 hours. So what happens is it's dropping off the oldest information so that the newest is captured. So as soon as you scan it, all of that 8 hours worth of data goes into the meter, which empties the sensor. So if you don't scan it within 8 hours, the oldest information kept in the memory of the sensor starts to drop off. And that's probably why there was gaps in the graph earlier on. And there you go. The only thing I haven't looked at so far, the only thing left to look at is the timers, which can be set on the computer, but it can also be set on here. So I've got one at 9, 10 PM and then 10 AM as well, and you go through the list by pressing more, and when you get to the end of this you can add a new one, so let's add a new one. So what type is it? Well, it's either going to remind me to check my glucose, it's going to remind me to take insulin, a standard alarm, or a private reminder. You can type that in, it'll give you the Rechargeable, which is my nighttime one. So let's just remind us to check the glucose. How often is it going to repeat? Well, you can set it a daily timer, a one-off timer, or this one is a countdown timer. So rather than setting a time and date, you can set how many minutes. So if we set a timer for, let's say, 3 minutes, and save, and now we can see that this will be added to the end of the list. Oops. There it is, counting down. So the number down the bottom left actually shows us what time that alarm is going to go off by. 3:53. And look, there's only 20 minutes left to wait for the sensor to be ready. And there you go. Tells me to check glucose. It's vibrating. So I can either snooze it for 15 minutes, you know, just can't quite be bothered because you're in the middle of a conversation. Press OK. It does time out by itself, but I'm going to press OK on this occasion. And that's that.